What is the most memorable case you worked on with divorce? Was it the one where those people got back together, or was it just one where you're like, oh my gosh, it was dragged out for like 5 years?
I mean, I think the cases that drag out for 5 years, it's always a sigh of relief when they're done. For me, I think most divorces end the same way. I'm just happy my client gets a new beginning. I think what I do like to see is, maybe a year later or 2 years later, the clients who really didn't want the divorce and who were heartbroken in my office, signing the papers, hysterically crying. And I'm just like, you're going to be okay. And they're like, no, I'm not. And then I see them a year and a half or 2 years later, and they'll stop me and be like, you were so right. Like, thanks so much for helping me through that moment in my life.
Really tough time.
Yeah,
because
really
you're like a
tough time.
therapist too that's.
Oh, I say that all the time.
Yeah,
I think
people come to you as a divorce attorney, but you become like a therapist because they got to tell you everything.
Oh, I feel like most of the day I'm a therapist, and then about like 10% of the day I'm a lawyer.
Hey friends. It's the Ryan Leckey Show. Welcome to the Ryan Leckey Show.
Hey, welcome back. What is going on? It's another edition of the Ryan Leckey Show. Now, this one, it might be a little dicey. Gonna get a little rocky today, right? Because we're gonna talk about rocky relationships, but more importantly, how to end them.
That is
right.
right.
Can I say
right.
wait, how did you casually, jokingly describe your gig? You're the slayer of, go ahead.
Slayer of relationships.
Yeah. So my girl, who I've been friends with for a number of years, but just so respected in Pennsylvania, right, is a divorce attorney. You've been doing it for like a decade.
That's right. A full decade.
Yeah.
Officially in 2023, a decade.
Yeah. And some of the like inside stories, and I should say, we always, attorney client privilege, we always leave names out of it, but some of the stuff you've experienced, I'm like, oh my god, we have to have her on the podcast because this is insane. But also to share some insider tips from Nina DeCosmo as a divorce lawyer, like what you need to really be thinking about when you get married, things if you're thinking about a divorce, things to get on your radar. And Nina, you tell everybody, before I give the big disclaimer, just talk about the law firm you are a part of that you're a big partner at.
I work at SDS Family Law Group. It is in 44, Pennsylvania. We specialize solely in family work. So divorce, custody, that's our wheelhouse. It's all we do. It's me and two other attorneys, Michael Shadow, Art Silverblatt. And yeah.
And I think that's important to point out because some attorneys try to like do it all and maybe they're not super specialized. Like this is kind of all you do. And the big disclaimer we want to point out, don't take this as legal advice, right? Always consult with an attorney. Did I do that right? You're the lawyer.
Yes. Always consult with an attorney before any decisions. Don't take what we say on this podcast as, it applies to your case.
There we go. All right, we're covered. Now we're going to get the inside tea from Nina DeCosmo.
Here we go.
I am so excited for this. So I think the first thing is, before we even get into when the marriage goes south and people have to get divorced, I mean, you have worked with all types of people, all ages, all walks of life. So what are the common mistakes, though, people have made when they are getting married? Like you as a divorce lawyer, even if someone's like, oh, I'm so in love with little Jimmy or Mary and we're getting married, you should be like, you better watch out for this.
I think I always meet people when the relationship's falling apart, right? But of course I have friends and family and even myself, I'm about to get married. I think one of the biggest things that you always hear post is people don't communicate that well prior to marriage. And even during marriage, that's why a lot of marriages fall apart. But there's so many people who, when your relationship's riding high and you're engaged and you're only in a relationship 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is, it's all happy moments. And sometimes you don't get into the nitty-gritty details. So they don't know really much about the person they end up marrying because they're still in this stage of bliss.
We call it the honeymoon stage, right?
The honeymoon stage.
Yeah.
And so when the honeymoon stage goes away, I have so many people who say, I didn't know this or I didn't know that. And I'm like, now obviously I'm a little jaded because now I think when I'm in my own relationship now, and
I feel for your fiance.
Yeah,
That's
prior
all I'm
relationships,
gonna say.
I feel like I'm an investigator. Even in friendships, I want to know so much about people, and I think it is because what I do and the stories I hear. But I think before you say those vows and you take the walk down the aisle and you say I do, I really think you need to ask that question. Do I really know this person I'm marrying? And obviously we all change, but
Let's unpack that, though.
Yeah.
So are we talking like, I need you to present your financial status for the past 5 years, and I need to know your debt, or like, tell me the things to look for?
No, I mean, I think just the things to look for is when you do ask questions, are they open and honest in answering it, or are they like elusive? They're kind of going around that question. Because of course you don't have to be like, let me see your personal financial statement before, I consider even marrying you. That just, that of course is not the advice I'm giving. But I think it's just, when you ask a question, is it being answered? Even you look at some friendships. I mean, I've had friendships where I'm like, I don't even know where this person lives. I've been to dinner with this person 15 times. I don't know where they live, and I don't know what they do. Why?
And you're like, hi, I'm a red flag.
Yes. So I think that's just I think the standards you hold your close friends to is what you need to hold your partner to.
Let's look at divorce. Like, at what point do you approach that? Do you ever have anybody who've come to you in the past decade and you're like, have you guys maybe tried this? Like, I don't know if you're ready for divorce. Like, how do you know when it's really ready to sign on the papers and pull the trigger?
Oh, so many people come in. I mean, I have tons of just consultations where people are sort of exploring the option, and you can kind of tell when someone's sitting across from you just in a conversation where they're just not ready to pull the trigger. So at that point, I mean, there's always, that's when I say, have you spoken to your spouse about going to marriage counseling? Maybe start there. Or have you told your spouse that you're even contemplating a divorce? Because that at least, starts a conversation between the two of you, where if your spouse may not realize that they're doing certain things that are driving you absolutely crazy, that there could be a change. So there's plenty of people who walk in the office and are completely unsure. And I say, I don't think that you should file this just yet. Why don't you take some time to sort of explore, approach the counseling? I mean, just an example, I had a really close friend who went through divorce, and they kept saying to me, I really, really, really love my spouse, but something's missing. And I want that person to be in my life. And I'm like, okay, well, if you just blow it up and don't try, it's going to be hard to still probably maintain that friendship, like post-divorce friendship with somebody. And I think that may be hard to maintain regardless. But I was like, one of the things I always say is, if you give it your all, you try every option, exhaust sort of every resource, and you still come to the same conclusion that you need a divorce, then I think you're doing the right thing. So if you go the avenues of counseling, you go the avenues of, let me talk to my partner and say, these are the things that I need to change before otherwise I'm pulling the divorce trigger. I think then that you really gave it your all, your best effort, and at the end of the day, it just didn't work for you.
Who are the people coming into your office? Like, are they people who are recently married, maybe in their mid to late 20s, 30s, and be like, I made a mistake? Or are these people in their 60s, 70s?
All over the map. I mean, just yesterday, I had a wonderful person in my office, 75 years old. And
what, were they married for like 50 years and like, I'm done?
Done. And
wow.
They were so cute. Said to me, they're like, I have to tell you, I have gone to so many other attorneys before you, and they drove actually a distance to come and see me. They said they got a recommendation from somebody, and they had said to me that the other attorneys they saw just kept saying, you're 75. Why are you going to get divorced? Hopefully, the other person croaks. That was the advice that they were given. And, I looked at the potential client sitting across from me, and I just said, I was like, one of the things you said to me when you just sat down was, you're not happy and you feel as though you have a lot of life to live. So I'm like, anyone sitting across from me at the age of 75, do they really want to be starting a divorce at 75? No, but she just told me she had a lot of life to live. So she's like, why did you give me the advice to get divorced when everybody told me just, cross your fingers and hope that
stick it out,
you outlive your spouse? And I said, well, because you have a lot of life to live. You should be happy. So great. The divorce is going to be a year of an emotional roller coaster, getting divorced. But, hopefully on the other end of it, you've got 15 years of you're going into your own home, your own space, and you're walking in not on eggshells, and you're happy.
I love that. I have a question now. We're going to get a little bit more legal lingo here.
All right.
So Pennsylvania claims to have a no-fault divorce.
Yeah.
What exactly does that mean? And is it common to have divorce cases where both parties can just split amicably? So let's unpack the first part.
Yeah.
What is the no fault divorce?
So Pennsylvania is a no fault state. No fault means your marriage is irretrievably broken. Both parties agree that the marriage is broken, or in Pennsylvania, if you are separated for a period of 1 year, the statute says your marriage is irretrievably broken. So that's how your divorce proceeds under no fault grounds.
Does that mean like it's like just a quick one and done and you're clear, or do you still have to get like all the divorce hoops you got to jump through?
So you still, it honestly depends on, do the parties have assets and debts to split? Because if you have assets and debts to split, the no fault language just gives you the grounds to get a divorce. You still have to divide the assets. So most divorces proceed under no fault grounds, because our statute says if you've been separated for a year, you're automatically going under the no fault grounds.
How do the divorce proceedings happen if, I don't know, Mary Smith or John comes in and be like, my significant other cheated last weekend. I need divorce now. So what's that?
That it could proceed under fault grounds, but again, will likely proceed under no fault grounds. So I always kind of say the fault piece is a little bit of an antiquated part of our statute that maybe in time I think you will see leave our statute. Solely because what I just said before is if you're separated for a year, Pennsylvania makes you go under no fault grounds. Or if the two of you agree your marriage is broken, they make you go under no fault grounds. So really what the fault ground allows you to do is if, say, husband cheats, but he won't agree that your marriage is broken, you can ask the court to hold a hearing to determine if in fact he's a cheater. And if the court finds that he's a cheater, you've established grounds for divorce. You now don't have to wait the year and you can proceed on to divide your assets.
I love the ladies in our office right now are just like taking notes from Nina. I'm dying. I'm like looking around. So the question is though, so when you tell us about like going to court for something like that to prove so-and-so's a cheater, do you help, like, do you hire PIs or people to like take the pictures of the person cheating and dig up the text messages? Tell me like the nitty gritty. Give me the tea.
Yeah, so there are a lot of instances where we do use PIs. Beyond just cheating scandals, there's people who say they're not working. Well, okay, we'll find out if you're working. Are you working under the table? And that happens. We have a PI follow them. I said, and the other piece of what I do is I do custody. A lot of times we'll have PIs follow parents, believe it or not, because parents are supposed to be with their child. They're not. Again, work schedule. They're lying about where their work schedule. The kids, really with grandma the entire period of custody. So,
wow.
Yeah, I use PIs frequently.
I love that. There's so many great stories you have. So the one question I want to ask, have you ever helped a couple go through a divorce proceeding? You're like, oh my God, is this ugly, right? And then 2 years later, you find out they got back together?
I have. It's happened twice.
Take me through this, because I'm fascinated at the amount of money people would spend, the fighting, the paperwork, and then they get back together.
It's happened twice. One, it actually didn't make it all the way to the actual seal of here's your divorce decree. But it made it. It was literally almost about a 3.5-year battle. Tons of money spent, because the longer a divorce drags on, the court appearances, that's really what drives the cost of divorce, is if you're fighting over everything.
And what is the average cost of divorce?
I always say it depends.
Like if you walk in and you're like, we want to split down the middle, we're good with this. I mean, you can make it, shoot it back, bring it home, make it quick.
Yeah. So if you walk in and say, we agree on everything, we're just here to sign papers, we need you to memorialize our marital settlement agreement. That's an agreement that says, these are the assets you're getting, these are the debts you're taking. This is what the other person's keeping. We do that, the paperwork to file the divorce complaint, get your divorce decree, all that. If you come in, $1,500, $2,000, probably good to go. That's
But where it gets
amicable.
expensive is what? If like people are haggling back and forth over the custody of the kids, child support, or like who's paying what debt.
who's paying what debt. People won't disclose their financials. So you're in court arguing to get, tax returns, bank statements, credit card statements, because you need that information to outline what the marital estate is.
How do you get that? Is that like with warrants? You'd be like, we want a warrant for his tax records.
So
is that what it's called? Or what do you?
Subpoena.
A subpoena. There we go. That's the language.
A subpoena.
I think I've watched too much like Law and Order SVU, right? All the time. And I'm like, yeah.
Law and Order really makes the lawyer life way more glamorous than it is.
Yeah.
But
okay,
one can dream that it's like Law and Order.
So basically, I mean, it could get really costly if people aren't agreeing on things. You got to have multiple hearings. That's where thing gets chewed up.
Yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, if you just have, let's just say you have, somebody who's two teachers. So you've got pensions, bank accounts, a house, and a mortgage. Simple divorce like that with no fighting should really just should be about no more than $5,000.
Okay. Good to know. All right. And you told us the horror stories about people getting back together. But I think, too, there are some pros of divorce. Now, what I mean by that, if people still like each other and respect each other, right, and they have kids, like, what are the pros of the divorce, I guess, to separate but still keep it really amicable? Because I think, like, sometimes people just, I think, get on each other's last nerves, but they love the person as a person, but they just can't live with them for the rest of their life, etc.
Yeah.
Are there pros to divorce?
I think there's absolutely pros to divorce. I mean, I think that even without divorce, a lot of relationships come to an end. And from every ending of a relationship, I certainly think that you learn something and you take what you learned into, any other relationship. So it's like you're not going to make that same mistake and you'll self-reflect. And, just as I went back before, it's nice to walk into a space, even whether it be an office, your home, and know you're walking into a space you feel comfortable in. So when a lot of people are going home to their spouse and they're cringing and they're walking in on anxiety because they just hate the tension or they don't like being in that space. I mean, that's a pro of divorce is, you're creating a new space that you enjoy being in. When there's kids involved, it's always the question, well, should I do this because we have children? And I mean, I think it comes down to children aren't dumb. They can feel and sense what's going on around them. And you end up talking to, through the custody realm, I get to talk to so many children, whether they're 5 or 12, 14, 15. I talk to them and a lot of the teenagers say, God, I wish my parents did this years ago so I didn't have to watch the fighting or watch the loveless relationship. So I think it does help children in that realm. And I know so many people are concerned that a child's not coming home to two parents. But at the end of the day, I mean, I think it's human nature that a child just wants to feel loved by a parent. There's nothing that says those parents need to be under the same roof. Like a father just needs to love their son. A father needs to love their daughter. A mother needs to love their child. And I think that love can happen in any setting. It doesn't have to be, we have to have a mom and dad under the same roof.
I think what I respect so much, people I've known who've gone to you for divorces and stuff, they've said you were always really good if they went in and said, I just want to be respectful to my partner who I'm divorcing, right, throughout that whole process. How does that happen? How do you make sure, so if some person comes in and said, look, we fell out of love, really want to respect this person and not, quote, take them for everything they're worth, right? How do you guide somebody through that? And how do you work through that to make sure it's sort of on the up and up?
I think that that's just listening to your client and their needs. And I will tell you, I'm laughing I chuckled when you said, take them for everything they're worth. I kind of always set that type of person who comes into my office straight very quickly, because you need to manage your client's expectations. It's a huge part of what I do is managing emotions and expectations. I mean, family law is all emotions, but if you don't manage their expectations, that's where the failure is. But Pennsylvania has guidelines as to how things are going to be divided and also even how custody works. So the concept of, clean them out and take them for everything that they're worth. I mean, if you have an attorney saying to you that that's what's going to happen at the end, walk out of that office, because it's not. I mean, we are an equitable distribution state. So, can you drive another client a little bit crazy by maybe sending them a lot of discovery and asking them a bunch of questions throughout the process of making them provide you records? But at the end of the day, I mean, I can only divide what you guys acquired during your marriage. I can't create it. And it's, everyone in Pennsylvania starts at a 50-50 distribution. So in terms of, friends who maybe your friends that have used me, I feel like I do try and respect their wishes. And also I don't create an unrealistic expectation that we're going to clean somebody's clock, because it's just
So they don't come in and like,
reality.
Nina, I need a shark. I need you to be a shark.
No, I mean, I do get the shark thing. And I think the shark, I think I've actually been called a barracuda. That's what I've been heard. Yeah, barracuda, which I like. I like that. I like that better than a shark. But anyway.
Do you like that better than Slayer of Relationship?
Slayer of Relationship? I'd like the barracuda. Yeah, let's go with barracuda.
I guess for you, what is the most memorable case you worked on with divorce? Was it the one where those people got back together, or was it just one where you're like, oh my gosh, it was dragged out for like 5 years?
I mean, I think the cases that drag out for 5 years, it's always a sigh of relief when they're done. But for me, I think most divorces end the same way. I'm just happy my client gets a new beginning. I think what I do like to see is, maybe a year later or 2 years later, the clients who really didn't want the divorce and who were heartbroken in my office, signing the papers, hysterically crying. And I'm just like, you're going to be okay. And they're like, no, I'm not. And then I see them a year and a half or 2 years later, and they'll stop me and be like, you were so right. Like, thanks so much for helping me through that moment in my
really
life.
tough time.
Yeah,
because
really
you're like a
tough time.
therapist too that's
I say that all the time.
Yeah,
I think
people come to you as a divorce attorney, but you become like a therapist because they got to tell you everything.
I feel like most of the day I'm a therapist, and then about like 10% of the day I'm a lawyer.
So talk me through that, because I know of divorce attorneys who've been married, divorced, etc. You have never been married or divorced, right?
Never married or divorced, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess, is it scary? You don't have to give me all the tea, but I mean, like, when you met your fiance, you're like, look, if this goes any further than boyfriend, girlfriend, I want you to know we're going to have some paperwork in place.
Yeah. We left. So my fiance actually went to law school, not a lawyer, but did go to law school. So he also kind of has, some legal background.
Yeah.
But our mutual friend who introduced us said to him, I really want you to meet my friend Nina. She's so awesome. But let me tell you, date her. Whatever you do, don't marry her, because she slays people in divorce. Literally, that's what he said.
She slays people in divorce.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of tough to like walk into then.
Yeah.
Because you have to like be like, yo, I'm not that.
No,
hardcore.
we always laugh.
Yeah.
We always completely laugh about it.
I think the thing is, Nina DeCosmo, when she's not the barracuda,
Not
right?
the barracuda, yeah.
Who are you when you're not at work? I mean, we have stuff in common with our dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Go-
2 doodles.
Golden doodles.
Yeah,
We
love
love our
them.
doodles.
Stevie turned 2 yesterday.
I love it. So you have 2 golden doodles. Obviously, you're passionate about fitness, and you and I initially met like running a marathon back in the day. But I guess even if you go back to your past a little bit more, how did you decide I want to be a lawyer, but specifically do divorce law?
So I got into divorce
Or
law.
family law, I should say.
Yeah, family law. I went to Villanova for law school, and they have a legal clinic. So my undergraduate degree, I went to the University of Miami. I was an accounting major. Talk about boring. Then I'm in law school. I do the legal clinic. So what the legal clinic is you got to work on cases with one of your professors supervising you. Mm-hmm. So we had a tax clinic and then a civil clinic, and we were all in one little room the size of actually probably this office. And there were a bunch of family cases that came in, and I was just like, oh, let me try something different. Give me those. And I just really loved the client interaction. So so I just ended up gravitating towards it. So I always thought I'd be a corporate attorney with my background. But then when I was in the clinic, I was like, this is so great. I have so much contact with my client on a daily basis. I mean, there isn't a day where I'm not speaking to 10 clients, 15 clients. I'm always speaking with my clients in the courtroom a lot because something's always happening in a custody case. So I really was drawn to it because of the client interaction and the therapeutic counseling piece. I liked that.
Are the family law cases the toughest for you? Like, what's one of the toughest cases that really stuck with you?
Custody cases. I mean, there are many custody cases that, I still scratch my head, not scratch my head, but the situation of whether it's
They sit with you?
Yeah, they really just
come back?
unbelievably
bit,
sit
yeah.
and come back. I mean, there's one case, it was a relocation case, meaning one parent wanted to relocate. And, I spoke with the judge about it maybe 2 years after because I really needed to understand the ruling. And the relocation was granted. Dad relocated to Florida. Mom did not. And the kids moved to Florida because that was the ruling. And I just didn't understand why it happened. And the judge said, well, I just really assumed mom was going to move to Florida. And when I told the judge that didn't happen, he was just like, well, then I really screwed up. Because now, he ripped a mom away, a mom who really raised these kids. And that was just one case that I just really felt the court got wrong. And I think it was because they made assumptions that, oh, well, mom's going to follow the family wherever they go because she wants to be close to the children, but didn't really grasp that there's a reason these two parents are separated. And there was a lot of, maybe emotional abuse and physical abuse. And, that mom didn't want to be anywhere near the father, but still wanted to be really present in her kid's life. And that opportunity was taken.
Wow.
So that's a tough one. And, there's a lot of alienation custody cases that are just really hard to watch because you also sometimes just wonder how two people loved one another enough to procreate, and now here they are, making decisions and acting in ways to alienate a child's affection from another parent. So it's just,
I could see how that could stick with you, though.
yeah.
All of that, especially the dad moving to Florida, the mom stayed in PA and never left. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I know we could talk about a lot more cases, but I think wrapping this up, any final thoughts? I mean, your tips. You gave some great advice if you're thinking about getting married, what to do. But if you're in a relationship, I guess, before people would come to an office, right? What are the checks you said to go through? It's almost like inventory on your relationship before people just say, that's it, I want divorced. And then they come in and you start unpacking stuff. You're like, well, maybe it's not that bad.
Yeah, I think it's just before you come and see a divorce attorney, I don't even think it's before. I think it's always great to do research and meet with maybe a divorce attorney to understand what your rights are. So if a divorce were happening, what it would look like. Next step then I think is really to do that gut check and make sure you gave the relationship your all. I always say the grass might be greener on the other side until you get the water bill, right? And it's like, maybe I made that mistake. So I think it's really just making sure that, you made that last effort and you're very clear before you start the process.
Because there are obviously like a lot of it, right? Divorce attorneys might just be like, yeah, let's do it. Let's get divorced, right? Because then you get paid. But I think what's really cool about you want to make sure, like, do you really want to do this?
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing is our office is busy enough that, of course, we love new clients and we're always taking new clients, but we're busy enough that we don't need every divorce that walks in the door. And, we all have families and we're all, in committed relationships. So, we want to make sure people are doing things and are going to be happy with that decision. Because if they're not happy with that decision, they're not going to be happy with our service at the end either.
Yeah, because then they'll feel like you pushed them into it. And I think with you, the other claim to fame, because I said I knew some people went to you, right? And they just raved about, Nina's great, right? Not just because we're friends, because I'd be like, you messed up. She said so. But I think the other thing, to your credit, like in a day and age, sometimes people are like, my lawyer never calls me back. You are like on top of it. And I think that matters a lot to clients, when it comes to any type of situation, right?
Yeah.
I'm grateful. I have a business attorney. Guy texts me back, call me back instantly, right? Email. That's what you want in somebody you're paying.
Yes.
Especially for that hourly rate.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think part of that comes with my age, that I'm 36, so I'm not super techie by any means, but I grew up in an era where we were starting to have email to our phones, where some of my colleagues didn't. So they're not used to that. We need to instantly respond to people, where
the communication matters, especially when somebody's going through that in their life. But listen,
absolutely.
You're amazing. Really quick, wrap up your law firm name again. And if people are like, I need a Nina in my life, the law firm is
SDS Family Law Group, 44 Pennsylvania.
And the website?
SDSFamilyLawGroup.com, created by the one and only
Ryan
Leckey.
That was a while ago. Yeah, so full disclosure. Yeah, we did help you with your website and stuff.
Yeah.
And I know I would see you more at the gym than anything. Like, that's where you and I always see each other. And I'm always like, I love it. Love seeing you thrive, kill it, whatever you're going to do. Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. You're
Always
amazing.
so wonderful to see you.
Yeah, and I love that you gave us the tea. It was good.
Good.
It was good.
I hope I
still love Slayer of Relationships and Barracuda.
Yeah, I like it. I like Barracuda. Really
I'm going to tell my
gravitating
partner, you
towards
better not
that
mess
one.
with me.
Yeah.
'Cause we're not married yet, but I got Nina in my corner.
But I love Matt.
I know.
I
Me
love
too.
Matt. I would ship that out. I would, refer you to someone else.
I love you. You're the best. Nina DeCosmo, divorce attorney extraordinaire, rock star. Somebody, God, a decade doing this. But I mean, the respect, people I know who've worked with you is just, it's been amazing. You're amazing at what you do. And you're an amazing lawyer, an even better human.
Thank you. I've been very blessed in life and my career. So thanks.
Thanks for coming on today.
I loved it.
I hope we
Thank you for
inspired and really
having me.
informed. You're the best. Everybody, Nina DeCosmo, and thank you so much for checking out this edition of the Ryan Leckey Show. I'll see you soon.